Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beer Together / Ale of a Time with Dave and Luke. Dave, how are you?
Very well. How are you going, mate?
I'm great. You've just
That's-
opened, or you're having your first couple of beers in a month, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What
It's
have
a
you
me
what have you just
first of
have?
August. That's
Hello,
not dry
everyone.
July, so
Welcome to Beer Together
perfect
/
time
Ale
for
of
it.
a
I think
Someone's
I'm not
got
muted.
with
That's
yeah,
me.
it's your
Apologies.
YouTube. How are you?
Good Lord. Very well. How are you going? Unprofessional.
That's a rookie mistake, Dave.
I know. Someone wants to have the chat visible. Come on. Yeah. Dry July done. So bottoms up.
Great. I'll open a beer, and we'll introduce our guest, Paul Bowker from Brick
Do it.
Lane. Paul, how are you going?
Yeah, well, mate, really well worked, Dave. Not a bad afternoon, and I've got something similar in my hand as well, so couldn't be happier at the moment.
Excellent, excellent.
There's a couple of supernovas, I think. And what's yours, Luke?
I've got the Revolver, which is the new dark hoppy ale. I had a taste yesterday, and probably on that border between a pot kettle black from Yeasty Boys and a
Yeah.
black IPA in that kind of space. Is that accurate there, Paul?
Yeah, it's I mean, we've been looking at this beer for a while actually, and I guess like all our beers, we try and do things that are quite balanced. So we wanted to get all those really nice roasty and flavors, and then overlay it with hops, but not end up with a beer that was too thin. So it was quite an effort actually to get sort of the malt and the hops and everything to balance properly, and I think we got there. One of the challenges with these beers is they can be a bit thin, or if you go too heavy on the malt, then they can tend to sweetness pretty quickly after a while in the can. So at the moment, I think it's drinking beautifully. So hopefully it'll all be gone before it before it develops any of those sort of aging characters.
It is really fresh. One of the things I noticed yesterday, there's a real hop palate kind of that really fresh when you open hop palettes, even I guess fresh hops as well. Yeah, so it's still I guess bursting with flavour. Hopefully, these kind of beers, I always think they do last a little bit longer than you know a lighter coloured IPA or a pale ale. So yeah,
Yeah, that's right. It was
I think they tend to sort of like, even when they're not at their most vibrant, it still is a good flavor profile. Like it's not all about the how fresh the hop flavor is.
mm, mm,
Yeah, I mean the delicate balances. Once you start using crystal malts and things like that, they tend to they can overpower as a beer sort of spends a bit of time in cans. So, but at the moment, it's fresh and vibrant, and for a dark beer, I actually find it quite refreshing and thirst quenching almost. So it's yeah, we're pretty happy with it.
Now let's talk about Brick Lane a little bit because it's a really fascinating brand from the outside. When it launched, I'll probably be the first to admit I was skeptical. Anything with kind of high profile backers and a lot of money behind it, I immediately, you know, start questioning the motives. I think you guys have kind of done a lot of some really good beers and a lot of really good hospo stuff recently, which is that kind of thing kind of piqued my interest more in the brand, and knowing John Selton the brewer, and his expertise, and some of the, as I said, the really good beers coming out. It's really been interesting to watch Brick Lane grow as a brand, and I just kind of want to, hopefully you can speak to where it started from, and what you think of it as I guess a business.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. There's a bunch of there. There's about 30 people who are invested in the brewery in at different levels, financially, emotionally, physically. So it was a big group of people, and all came together basically on day one. So I mean, our idea was to basically build the best brewery we could and make the best beers we possibly could. Um, and there's different ways of going about it. Like they're all valid. I mean, you can start small and slowly grow your brand and your expertise and build up and move into bigger premises over time. We actually wanted to sort of build the dream brewery, well, John Selton's dream brewery. Fortunately, he didn't have his hands on the checkbook, but he tried. But he ended up with a pretty good brewery. But to do that, that was deeper than a few of our pockets. So we wanted to get some more funding involved from the beginning. We didn't want to sort of bring in debt because you don't want to have your whole business plan beholden to monthly interest payments, which drives behaviours you don't want. We didn't want big breweries. We didn't want sort of corporates involved. So you're left with friends, family, and those sort of private investors, I guess. And when we decided on that, we went to a bit of a network of people we knew and people they knew, and fortunately, nearly everyone we approached was keen to tip in. So it's as you say, there's people in there that are known, but they're all fantastic people, and most of them are self-made. They're passionately interested in the brewery. They don't work in it, but they're certainly there, and they all got a 4-pack of Revolver last week, and on our chat groups, the messages were flying thick and fast, so they're engaged.
That's great. And there's some New Zealand investors as well. Is there...
Yeah, we've got about so of the 30, there's probably about 10 or so that are either in New Zealand or from New Zealand. So I guess it's a bit of an Australian-New Zealand theme. At the moment, we're just in Australia. The brewery's in Melbourne, and we're national in Australia. But over time, we'll move across to NZ as well. And yeah, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, the challenge with New Zealand is they got so many good beers, and for an Australian-based company just to bomb into NZ with no reason, it's not going to work. Lots have tried and everyone's failed that I know of. So.
There's also, being New Zealander, that cynicism that as soon as you start seeing that kind of big project happening, you think, what are these guys up to? That's probably reflective of a lot of New Zealand beer, I think, as well.
Yeah, it is, and I can sort of see where the skepticism comes from, but I guess in our mind it's almost the opposite, because we built this great brewery and we've got people to put in genuine cash out of their pockets. We don't need to go anywhere. We don't need to hit a peak and sell out. I mean, we've funded ourselves, so we can sort of create our own destiny a little bit. So it's a good position to be in.
What's your background?
A bit of everything. So I actually spent quite about 10 years working in hospo, which was usually part-time, but through sort of uni and post-uni. And then I was a lawyer for a while in Australia and over in the UK. And then I've worked in oil and gas, engineering. So a bit all over the place, but probably the last 10 years before Brick Lane, it was mainly oil and gas and engineering. So lots of shiny stuff. So the whole build project was pretty fascinating for me.
How did you go from there to Brick Lane then?
Yeah, it's like a lot of people. You spend a lot of time in offices in a bit of a corporate world, and you want to do something different or something you're passionate about. I've always been close to hospitality, and I've done a lot of wine things, like diploma in wine, and I've made wine, and that's always been a huge passion for me, as is hospitality. And, I was looking to do something different. I had a few friends who were looking to do something different, and we looked at all the options, and beer just seemed like a great industry to get involved in. We spent a bit of time, obviously, speaking to a lot of people, and it's beer, it's hospitality, it's wine. They're all similar. I mean, you can have a fun time in all of them. There's great people in all of them. The beer just seemed to be the best path, because it was you could almost create your own business, whereas wine is kind of hard. You've got vineyards, you've got actual production, you've got a winery that gets used a few months a year. It's a pretty tough environment, and beer was just so exciting and dynamic and controllable, and you can brew every day of the year. You can do so many different things. You're not just subject to one particular vintage. So beer was the choice, and when we decided to do that, we thought, let's do it properly.
Fair enough. How did you manage to wrangle John Selton across?
It was a pretty funny story, actually. So it was me and another guy, and we're not brewers, so we had a bit of a look around to see who was in the market and who wasn't, and we put a couple of little blind feeler ads out there, and John lobbed up one day and came in, and another guy interviewed him, and like literally within 2 minutes we said, right, you've got the job, but just let's keep talking. It was one of those moments, like John, but like the passion is just, it's off the charts, and you just get mesmerized when he speaks, and I think he sort of had us all dazed, and and that was it, and that was before we'd started building the brewery. So we'd done all the early procurement process around the brew house and packaging, and then John came in and steered us in a bit of a better direction, probably to where we were heading. Started writing bigger checks than what we wanted to write. But yeah, so John's been in since the very beginning. He's one of the founders of the business.
I guess the style of beer, is the base lager, which is in support of Melbourne Storm and who's the other team?
Ready?
Yeah, so it's a standalone beer, but we do a version for Melbourne Storm and Melbourne Rebels.
Rebels, yeah.
Actually, this week we've just released a Sunshine Coast Lightning can for them, which has got our pale ale in it. So it's just because we've got such a flexible brewery and packaging line, we can do these things pretty easily. So yeah, where we've got sort of partnerships, it's no drama for us just to give them something a bit unique.
And then kind of right up to, I saw you launch some sour beers, kind of as this whole thing kicked off. Is it about
which sorry?
I remember because I saw there's a truck at Queen Vic Market with a sour beer. Yeah. It looks beautiful, and then I sort of noticed that just as soon as COVID kicked off, it looked like you guys were planning something outdoorsy.
Yeah, well, we Queen Vic Markets for us has been fantastic. Actually, we I don't know if you know the background of the markets, but they've always had for the last quite a while. They've had exclusive beer contracts, so different people have had it, and Cooper's had it before us. And anyway, when we were still actually building the brewery, we went into this tender process and pitched for it, and it was pretty stupid. We thought we've got no chance, against the big guys. The brewery hasn't even bloody completed. And anyway, we just said we'll throw everything at it. When we have partnerships, we throw it at it like we're there every week. And so anyway, we won this contract. So we're the beer of the Queen Vic Market. So we've got a permanent bar there that opened, unfortunately, in January, just as the bushfires hit and now COVID. But that's still there. So that will be reforming as soon as restrictions lift. But it also means we can do a lot of activation. So when COVID happened, they said you can still do takeaway, and so we rolled in our caravan, and they've been fantastic. So we're doing takeaways there out of the caravan, and that's all branded up with our new sour beers. But it's a really good partnership for us at Queen Vic Markets. We love it.
And you've been
what do you think it was about your pitch that got you over the line?
I think it was a lot of places, a lot of sort of we might sort of get onto these sort of things, but I guess big beer are great at a lot of things. They make, whether you like the styles or not, they make incredible beers. Like their quality, attention to detail is second to none. Like, you have a look at the technology they've got, the labs, the processes. They're quite incredible big breweries. But they're also, because of their size, they can be a little bit distant sometimes from the customer. And I guess we offered the personal touch, and we physically, I'm down there, John goes down there, the brewers go down there, like the real people behind Brick Lane are there, every Wednesday, because for us, it's probably one of the most important partnerships we have. But for big beer, it's a rounding error, and it's just a sign a check activation. And I think that's where breweries like us and all independent breweries, that's where we've got the huge advantage. I mean, you're dealing with people who are so heavily involved in the business that they're passionate about it, and when you enter into a partnership with them, you get that, not just the beer.
It's a good get.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's great. We love it there.
I see the brand, the circular, what are they called, the light boxes, down String Bean Alley there every weekend. I'm there far too early for anything to be open. For you guys to be open.
Once the Wednesday night markets, they're bloody incredible. Like, they are just absolutely sensational. And unfortunately, they're cancelled until, I don't know if some of the markets will get up, but when they're on, the place is just buzzing. Like, it is awesome. And then non-night market days, we've got our bar there, and we've got 8 taps, and it seats about 40, and we're open all day, and we do tastings and bits and pieces. So yeah, it's great.
And you're doing hospo meals out of that for a while there.
Yeah.
Can you sort of explain that? So I guess partnership with Maha and how that all works.
Yeah, so it was the altogether sort of beer initiative, which was a global initiative, and basically the process was, it was a recipe that anyone could do, use out of other half out of New York, and so we jumped on board, and we got a call from Ben Cowan at Cowan Cellars, and he said, we're thinking about this, and we were thinking about it, so we jumped in together. And the concept is you use their recipe, their branding, and then a proportion of, or all the proceeds, however you want to do it, either goes to the brewery making it or to hospitality. And we had a good chat with Ben, and I guess all businesses have suffered, and we suffered, but we were still going. And hospitality wasn't, it was on its knees. And we looked at that and thought, well, the people who are really getting hit hard are, the casual workers, and casual hospitality workers were the first laid off, and they were out of work. And so our idea was, wouldn't it be great if we did this and then donated, the proceeds back to meals for hospo workers. And then we got Shane Dallaire from Maha on board, who's one of our shareholders as well. And he basically donated all his time. He did all the food. We made the beer. Ben Cohen and his team, and other Ben, they sold the beer. And basically we donated all these meals to hospo workers. So every Friday down at the markets, we opened up the caravan, and you just needed to fill out an online registration and rock up, and you got a free meal made by Shane Dallaire. So it was, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really cool, and it was kind of cool, seeing people were sometimes reluctant to take free stuff, under, they don't want to be seen as charity, and seeing, a lot of the social media around it, and people really happy to be getting a free meal, which was, it's nice. It's nice that people were willing to accept it, and nice that you guys were willing to do it as well.
Yeah, and that was the idea for getting Shane involved as well, because we didn't want that sort of thing. So basically, we made sure it was a top end meal, like it's a Maha fine dining type meal. So people could come there and be bloody proud of having this fantastic sort of gourmet meal in amongst all the other madness that was going on. You could get your meal, go home, and actually have that moment of pleasure. So much like the beer.
And can you tell me about the those sour beers that we mentioned before?
Yep.
How do you see that kind of beer fitting in with what you guys do and where the market is?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Sour beer, as you know, it's like how wide's the category. So you can go all the way, to the extreme funky farmhouse sort of end of the spectrum, through sort of mid-range kettle sours through to just light refreshing type beers. So for us, this range of beer is more on the sort of light refreshing side of it. So they're properly brewed beers, and they're all made with real fruit. They're soured, but we wanted to make sure that these beers were really clean, really well balanced, good natural fruit, but not too overpowering. So it's a really well balanced drink. And the idea for this is, it's a great afternoon thirst quencher. Like the watermelon sells more than the blood orange one at the moment. I like the blood orange, but they're a great afternoon sort of thirst quenching beer. But they're also, they're a great beer for people that might not yet be ready for bigger malty and bigger hoppy flavours. So that's the sort of area that's sort of sitting for us. Obviously as we move on, we'll have other ranges sort of more down the funky path. But this is more of to get people into beer and into sour beer.
Nice. And am I right in thinking that was launched sort of February-ish, March-ish?
Yeah, it's probably around then. It probably came out March, April, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I've seen them online. As I said, I've seen the caravan. I haven't popped up in a bottle shop, but I'll check them out. Is it hard to do? I guess your brewery is kind of built for these sorts of, for designed with these sorts of things in mind. But the volumes that you're working with, is it, I guess, risky to do a sour on that scale?
Yeah, it's so it's kind of funny. So well, first, like the brewery can do anything. It's bloody flexible. It's a 50 hectoliter, which isn't the biggest brew house in the world, but it's we can brew 10 times a day. So we can crank this in hard, or we can do specialties. But yeah, every time we do sort of sour beers, it's an interesting process, and we're just fastidious with the cleaning, and it's everyone stands back, the suits come in, there's foam everywhere, everything gets scrubbed, polished. John Selton's so particular around quality and control, and making sure everything is absolutely perfect. So we've never had any issues, and we do so much testing all the way through every process that it's we're confident we can do. pretty much any type of beer. We do sours. We've done kombucha, different types of kombucha in the brewery. That's the thing to be wary of. But in controlled ways, there's a lot we can do in there.
Is kombucha under your brand, or is it?
No, so we make beers for other people as well.
Yeah.
Well, for a lot of them, they basically use our brewery. They've basically got the keys, but it's a bit of an open house down there in a way. So our beers are part of the story, and then there's other people use the brewery too. So it's a good setup.
Yeah, right. I can imagine it's bringing kombucha into any breweries worrying, knowing how feral that can go.
Yeah, we don't let anything sort of too wild come in, so everything's been pretty well processed when it comes in on the kombucha front. So we're incredibly cautious about those things.
Just want to mention, if anyone has any questions as well in the chat, fire them off. Sam Smalley is asking. He wanted to know about the Altogether beer. One of the questions was, what was it like to follow a recipe for that? It's probably a question for the brewers. Did they learn anything from that process? I guess is the question.
Yeah, well, it's so it's kind of interesting, and I don't know if it's still online, but it was very public. So they had you could either do basically a hazy version or a West Coast version, and we had a good chat to actually with Ben Cohen and John. They sort of worked together on this, and we decided to go down the more hazy path, but we didn't want to go into sort of too heavy IPA or too heavy NEPA. So it was almost like a hazy pale ale. So it was a really soft, light body, but with a huge burst of hop aroma. And when this thing was fresh, like it was mind blowing. But again,
sorry guys, I just need to run something out. Carry on.
No, you're good, mate. But going back to the sort of freshness thing, freshness is everything, and this beer was made to be drunk absolutely fresh. So it was burst full of hop aromas, but with this really sort of almost light, delicate, spritzy palate. So you had a lot of leeway in what you wanted to do, basically.
Did that prompt any like techniques or processes that you might use in the future? That was the second part of Sam's question there.
From that particular beer, I guess we used. There was nothing too revolutionary in that beer in what we've done. I mean, obviously we do different things. This beer that we're both drinking, for instance, that's pretty heavy on the cryo hops. So we've been doing a lot of experimentation around that. And we're constantly using new things. I think, Luke, if you've got the revolver there, Equinaut is sort of a bit of a thing at the moment. There's a lot of Equinaut in that. So most beers that we make, we do something different in there anyway. And we're new, so John's been doing it forever, but it's a fairly new brewery, and we're still trying to figure out the limits of it.
Someone else has asked, what's John Sultan's background? Where's he brewed? Where did he come from?
So he's you speak to him and you think he's been brewing for 100 years, and he probably has. He's a mysterious guy. But no, so he was before Brick Lane, he was the head brewer and the founding brewer of Hawkers. So he was with Hawkers from startup, and so he was there for sort of 4 or 5 years. And before that, he was at Bright Brewery. So that's where he really learnt his craft. And actually, funnily enough, every year we do this hop tour. We take about 20 or 30 people up there, and we always go back to sort of where it started for John, in the hop fields, basically, and at Bright Brewery. So he's sort of self-taught early on, but obviously he's been through IBD, and he judges all around the world now, so he's got a pretty good reputation for that stuff. But he's just a passionate brewer. It's all he's ever done. He's just brewed. I mean,
the other thing about John at Bright is that is always a special place to have a beer. That setting is that's one of Victoria's great places to have a beer, in my opinion. But he really transformed the beer list. Everything there went up several notches when he was there, and really made its mark as one of the good places to have a beer in Victoria, I think.
Oh, it is, and you go back there now, and so we go back there every year with a busload of people. But John walks into HPA, and all the hop growers basically give him a hug. Probably not today, but the last couple of years they have. So he's just he's legendary up there. He's so unassuming, but he's just so passionate about everything. The only scary part when we go up there is John's a paraglider, so we go up there and get up there sort of in the afternoon and do our hop tour, and then we'll sit out on we stay at this caravan park down the river there. It's bloody beautiful. And this year we were sitting there out on this deck having a couple of beers, and we looked up in the sky and there was someone paragliding, and we had a laugh, and I said, "I bet that's John," and it was. So he snuck out with no one knowing, drove up the mountain, and then just jumped off. He's hope we don't lose him back there, but if we do, and he heads back to Bright at some point, we've got a great friend up there.
That is the origin story of the MIA IPA.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
It's really it's really cool as well to see that beer still being brewed.
For sure. Yeah.
I remember Dave, and you probably do as well, when it was first released, and there weren't many West Coast IPAs around in the market.
It was a banger, yeah.
And I think the beer, that story has always been kind of central to that beer, and they're still telling that story as part of the beer. And the beer right now with the current brewer is tasting, as good as it ever has. So it's kind of cool to, he's left a really interesting legacy and going missing.
Yeah. And he does that wherever he goes, even, not even, but at Hawker's as well. He made so many bloody great beers there. And, the Hawker's Pilsner's amazing beer, and, he was famously involved in that. And then, when you see sort of Hawker barrels of, aquavit barrels and stuff come out, you just see John smile when he sees these Hawker beers, and he just loves having a role in things. He's an incredible guy.
So the current climate, where do you, I guess, how are you guys feeling about beer in general? Are you going to be doing more experimental stuff, or are you going to sort of wind things back and really focus on the core, or, do you have answers for that even?
Yeah, plenty. I think everyone in Brick Lane's probably got a different answer for it as well. It's constant debates. There's no more heated and in a fun way meeting than our NPD meeting, our new product meeting that we have every second week. But for us, the main thing was to make sure that every beer we make is the best it can be for that category. We just want to make sure every beer is bang on quality, it's consistent, it's the best that beer can be. So if someone has our lager, they can go, wow, that's how a sort of a Australian interpretation of a German Helles lager can taste. It's malty, but it's clean and crisp and beautiful and fresh, and it takes a while to do that. So we spent the first couple of years just making sure that we had a great core range of beers, which we've got now. And then over the last probably 3 or 4 months, we've just really started to crank up the new beers. So obviously we released Supernova, that came out. We did that all together, hazy beer. We released the sours, the Revolver dark hoppy. We've got the hazy IPA, which will be coming out fairly soon, which will be quite exciting. And we've got another pretty cool beer, which will be like a one-off sort of highly seasonal one-off beer coming out shortly as well. So now that we've got the base range of beers sort of sorted out, the brewers are basically off the leash, and we're pumping out some pretty interesting and exciting stuff.
I really enjoyed your version of Altogether. Really, just a really great version of that style, because the hazies, as listeners know, can go either way for me. But it was really good. Did you try it, Dave?
No, I didn't get to. I wish I had.
Yeah, so I imagine it's all gone now. Actually, Dave, I think you were asking about what Brick Lane beers are likely to be at Carwin, and I was like, maybe Altogether, but I don't. That could have been a month ago. It could have been
over there. Yeah, I would have actually got some more if there was anything there. But yeah, right now at Carwin, just Supernova.
Yeah, I think they have our red hoppy rolls through there a bit as well. So that Altogether was a good example of trying to balance the intense sort of double dry hopped aromas that you get and mouthfeel that you get, and making it kind of delicate and balanced as well. And it's always a challenge, but I think John got there with that. And Ben Carl was actually down there for Brew Day as well. It's debatable how helpful his input was, but he loved
it. It's interesting when I saw that team up as well. Carwin is quite often on the bleeding edge, working with a lot of really small and the kind of sole producers. So it was kind of cool seeing that team up with you guys as well. I really, I like seeing unexpected. Like in my mind, that that wasn't the two shop and the brewery I'd put together. But the result was really great.
I mean, I think that the thing is, like Ben and other people like that, they just love almost like people who are masters at their craft. And you can be a master at your craft in home brewing, or you can be a master of your craft in a tiny little, 200 litre sort of vessel that's barely commercial, or a 2 hectolitre or whatever. Or you can be a master of a craft in a 50 hectolitre. And some of the kit we've got in there, like arguably we don't need it, like, cross flow filtration. And, we've got some, like we're the only ones in the country with it, apart from, I think, Lion Nathan in there, but or Lion, but we've got some really cool stuff there. And, people like Ben and people like others, they look at that and go, okay, if you're a master of your craft, there's a place for you. And, we do have a bigger brewery, there's no doubt, but we're pretty passionate about the product that we put out.
I'm also really enjoying this black hoppy.
I'm going to just grab one from the fridge, but I'm still talking. I'm still here.
I feel like I've had a bit of a renaissance with dark beers this winter, Dave.
Take me through this beer, Luke. Come on.
Almost like mandarin, kind of candied, sort of orange mandarin aroma. Really kind of soft mouthfeel. Like it's not like lacing down the glass pretty well. My glass probably wasn't super clean, and it's still, it's one of those beers that is really well put together just by how the look and the appearance, and how well it just stays together. Finishes, there's a decent bitterness there. Not too sweet, not too bitter. You can get through it pretty quickly. And it sort of sits right in, some of the beers I've been really enjoying this winter. Bolter Elvis was really good. The Hoppy Nitro Dark one from Wayward I've loved. And it kind of, all of those beers have sort of done a similar thing for me, where I can just get through it really quickly, and it's really interesting, and there's unique characters, but I can have 3 or 4 and still be quite interested. Which is the challenge with a lot of, I think particularly in the Australian market, dark beers for so long were either we just really intensely roasty, or now a lot of intensely sweet. Whereas coming from New Zealand, there's so much dark beer that's 5%, really well made, really just designed to have in the cold winter as a session beer. And growing up and drinking in pubs in small town New Zealand, where every pub has at least one dark beer, and quite often just sessioning that all night. Coming to Australia and going, why can't I get that?
You feel like step 1 with like Hightail Ale, we could have easily gone to like some sessionable dark beers, and we just did it. Yeah, it's very strange.
And it's probably a climate thing as well. And I think
we have winter too, though. You know what I mean?
New Zealand winter, depending where you are, I guess. But where I was in west coast of the South Island, you certainly need something dark in the winter time.
Not all sours here, though.
Well, and I think that's probably why sours and are really kind of finding a hold in the market, which has been really cool. And dare I say it, seltzer is the last 3 times I've been into a Black Hearts and Sparrows over the last couple of months, I've heard people asking for seltzer recommendations.
The upcoming summer is going to be primed for someone to put out some well-marketed seltzer, for sure.
Any thoughts on that, Paul?
I will touch on the seltzer, but on this beer, like you bang on about dark beers, and I can't understand it either. So with this one, we've gone, it's full of flavour, both malt and hops, but it's got this really light palate, and it's almost like clean and spritzy, and it's refreshing. You want another sip, but you've got masses of flavour. And a couple of weeks ago, well publicised, but Lion had a few issues around getting supply out on time, and I went to a pub, and that unsuspecting pub, but they had 2 years old on tap, and it was fresh, and it's such a good beer. It's you get flavour, you get this lovely palate, and it's refresh, and you want more. Dark style beers, Schwarzbier, like the traditional Schwarzbier styles, they're such good beers, and I just don't know why haven't taken off. In Asia, people drink them like lager. It's it's one of those things. yeah, seltzers, it's unstoppable force. It's going to happen. I mean, no doubt.
I don't know if it is going to happen. Like, it's still kind of, no one's really sure, but like, as I said, anecdotally, hearing every time I go in and hearing someone asking about them, which is, I'm only in there for the shortest amount of time possible at the moment, and
Yeah.
people are excited. Have you frozen
Yeah.
there, Dave, or are you just sitting awkwardly?
Oh, Dave might have frozen.
Yeah.
Oh,
There he is. There he's back.
He's back.
Sorry, don't know what happened there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, seltzer's interesting because obviously it's White Claw, whatever in the States, it's a runaway train. Australia's probably a little bit different. I mean, we've got, for better or worse, quite an RTD culture over here. So there's people are already drinking those type of products. The last few years, we've had the everything pink. It doesn't matter whether it's, rosé or Campari or Pimm's or whatever, few more years back. But basically anything pink is selling well. RTDs have always sold well here. So there's a lot of alternatives to seltzer. So it might be that it doesn't become this absolute dominant force in the industry, but you can't hold it back. There's no doubt it is going to be big and going to grow. Last summer there was a couple here, Quincy, I guess, and not much else, and probably didn't hit the right mark, I guess. But yeah, you just have to have a look at the fridges, and there's just mass confusion. You've got RTDs, you've got seltzers, you've got pre-mixed cocktails. Like I don't know. I get confused when I look at it, but you can't sort of stop this force coming out of the States. It's going to happen.
I think one of the interesting things is, a lot of the seltzer market, and I think of bars that would, the bars that would probably attract the kind of seltzer, the higher end seltzer, I guess, or the people that just want a really refreshing, well-made but tasty drink, are already kind of doing cocktails or spritzers on tap. That's kind of got a wide adoption, at least probably in inner city Melbourne. I'm sure as you go out, it's probably quite different. But but whether or not that means people are ready to try different things, the fact spritz. I remember being up in Darwin, not Darwin, sorry. Where is? No, it's completely gone. Up north of the country. Yeah, no, not Uluru.
No, okay. Sorry.
And it was kind of when spritzers took off, and we'd just come back from Italy, so I went to go buy some Aperol to make a spritz to drink around the pool, and they've sold out of everywhere in the town. Why can't I remember that town? Oh, Port Douglas. Port Douglas.
Yeah, right.
And this, so that was really interesting to me. Like, oh shit, they literally sold out of Aperol. The only thing that was missing on the shelf in every bottle shop I went to was Aperol. I think people in Australia, I guess, already kind of open to drinking different things.
Do you think the take-home ability of like a seltzer product will keep it in the forefront of people's minds, where they might out-drink the kind of spritz drinks or that sort of thing, where they can take home a six-pack of seltzer and sort of have it fresh in their mind all the time?
Yeah, I mean, there's a convenience factor to anything that's in a 250 ml or 300 ml slimline can. It's easy, it's compact, you can carry it, you can put it in the fridge, you can chill it down quickly, and you can drink it with no consequence, apparently, to your waistline, because everything's marketed on, under 100. So there's a lot of things that I can see why consumers buy it. I guess from a product point of view, the challenge is always going to be that inherently there's no mastery in making that product. It's you can either make it as something that's dosed with ethanol and flavour, or you can brew it. But if you brew it, what you're basically doing is then stripping the life out of it till it's a clear beer, basically. So what you're left with really is a liquid that is almost commoditized in a sense. However, I guess for us, and everyone has to be looking at it, we're having to look at it, and the challenge is, how can you bring something to it? I mean, if we can't bring something extra to something we make, there's no point doing it. So with seltzers, how can you bring something more than just some sort of generic commodity? And there's probably ways you can do it. I mean, it's fresh, it's bright, it's lovely. If you introduce new interesting ingredients or botanicals or fruits, or I think for the people that bring something to the party, there's something there. For others that are just making a fizzy cordial, I think it's a short-lived proposition.
Getting back to beer, speaking of pink things, I've just opened a Sambo from Your Mates Brewing. It's part of the Gabs pack. Thanks to Gabs for sending me a pack. I think they're doing a live tasting next Friday online. Check out Gabs' Facebook. We'll tell you all about that. It tastes like a salt and vinegar sour beer.
Is Sambo a wordplay on Sam Boy chips?
It must be. I don't know if I'm familiar with them. So
Not familiar with Sambo chips.
It's smells like salt and vinegar chips. Like if that's
I don't feel bad. But
I don't know if I want another sip even. Like, but I didn't hate it. Gabs beers. It's
Yeah, part of the fun of Gabs is having stuff that you talk about but that you didn't like. Yeah. So you got to have them packaged for COVID-friendly Gab sessions. Yeah.
And I love that we can have a market where we're talking about a really well-made dark hoppy, talking about seltzers and talking about obnoxious things, and they all make sense to us.
It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you do it well. That's all that matters in life, really, isn't it? Do it the best you can.
We've got some questions from the chat here. Someone's asked about the new Yakima Looper Max pallets. Do you know anything about those?
No, I do not.
Okay, we'll move on then. This one's from a Zoe O. I don't know if anyone knows who a Zoe O might be, but she's asking about any plans for a West Coast IPA. She's asking for a friend.
She's asking for herself, to be quite honest.
Yeah, so I think Zoe's being pretty cute there. Obviously Zoe works with us, so she's. We did, funnily enough, so going back to the Supernova, a lot of the beers that we've made, we've just bought pretty much straight to market. Like it's been, John, you got, when you've got one crack, brew it right, and it's going to market. For the Supernova, we actually did about 4 different runs and put them out in keg for trial and feedback and tasting. And we did a West Coast IPA version early on, and it was quite full on as well. We're up at about 7.75, 7.4, 7.5. And it was a lovely beer. And then as we sort of refined it, we went a bit more down this sort of really pure, clean, less pine, less resiny, a little bit more tropical, which we've got in the Supernova. But internally, we were pretty split. Do we do this as a West Coast, or do we do this as sort of a modern take? And so a West Coast is on the cards. So Zoe, hang out for a bit longer. All she cares about, by the way, is her monthly staff allocation. That's why she's asking. She wants the free Coast to West Coast IPA next month. So,
I imagine bringing a 7% West Coast IPA to market is pretty hard now because a lot of us in the industry love them. That's what I am looking for. Like, if I'm going down to the shop to buy 3 or 4 beers, the first 2 are probably going to be West Coast IPAs that I haven't tried. But I can't imagine, is there a risk of selling volume of that kind of style to justify bringing it out?
It depends why you're doing it. Like the Supernova is 6.8, but it depends what the purpose of the beer is. And if it's to make the best beer in the style, which is our, underlying philosophy, the ABV is almost irrelevant. So if you want to make the best beer in that style, you do that. And so this Revolver, a hoppy porter, arguably we could have made something at 4.9 or 5 and banked a bit of excise and lowered the price point, but that wasn't the intention. The intention was to make the best hoppy porter in that style that we could, and that's what we did. And it'll be the same when we do a West Coast. It won't be compromised to try and hit a price point through ABV, because that's not the purpose of these beers. The purpose is to hit the best of the style. We've got other beers that sell in bigger volume, like our lager and our One Love Pale Ale selling large volumes, and because they're the best of the style. But these beers, they don't need to sell big volume. It's not what it's about. This is where the brewers have fun and challenge themselves.
There have been 2 comments. Someone says, please bring us the pine bomb. Elder Taco, thanks for that. I agree. And Sam has said, don't dumb down the pine and resin more. Hard to disagree.
So Zoe's obviously roped someone in there as well. So thank you, Zoe.
AoaT has also said the Sambo label suggests it's related to Samboy chips. So, my
Definitely.
second sip, by the way, it's growing on me. It's one of those beers that you like. Underneath, there's clearly a very well made beer there. It's just the vinegar up front is a bit. Ooh.
Can't believe there's no Samboy chips. You never grew up with Samboy chips.
Nah, I don't think so. We had Bluebird in New Zealand.
Tragedy.
Samboy salt and vinegar, to be fair, was the shit. That was the best. Yeah.
Someone, Stu217 is asking, what are some of the other brewing companies that have used your equipment? Are you allowed to say who that is? Or is that like a trade secret?
No, not. I mean, there's a few that brew some stuff in there just because we've got kit that others don't have. So, Sam and Dunk from Hop Nation, some of the beers that they make, they use our brewery for, and they get in there like they brew. So it's not like we're, it's not like here you go make beer for us. Those guys are all over it. So they do it. We make some beer for one of the big retailers as well, which is no secret. We're open about it. So we do that. There's a beer called Tinnies out there that we make. We do some stuff with Young Henrys. So there's a whole bunch of breweries, and that I guess we're really different because we've built this thing, and it, seriously, it shouldn't be just kept for us. I mean, it's too nice, and there's too much stuff in there. And our philosophy is, if other people can use it and make their beers better, more efficient, do different styles that maybe you can't do on a smaller brew kit, then bloody hell, use it. And so yeah, we're pumping out a lot of beers out of there. I think since we've commissioned, we've made about 80 different beers in our brewery, and we've got a portfolio of maybe 12 of those are ours. So basically we love other people coming in there. John loves brewing with other people. We love seeing other brewers in there. It's fantastic.
There is a question about that exact thing of John brewing with other people. Stu's asking, he doesn't want to turn it into the John Sultan Appreciation Society, but he was lucky enough to spend the day doing the Be the Brewer at Bright. Have you considered doing something like that? I think Be the Brewer is people pay to go and hang out with John and brew a beer.
I mean, people would love to spend the day in the brewery. A full day with John's a lot, so we'd probably carve it up a bit. But yeah, I mean, we've never, I guess we're just running so hard on doing so many things. We've not sort of put all these formal sort of brewer for the day programs or anything in place. But anyone that's been down there knows you just need to rock up and knock on the door, and we bring people in, we show them around. It's a complete open house. Take photos, do whatever you want in there. So we're really open about it. But the brewer for the day thing, yeah, fantastic. We've done it not advertised to public, but we do it for other people as well. So local groups, home brewers, we've had home brewer groups through there. Obviously, anyone in the industry. But yeah, I guess we just need to be a bit more organised and do it formally. As soon as COVID accepting, but yeah, absolutely, it's a good idea.
So Stu, just go knock on the door and wander on in. It sounds like.
Well, not now, because we've breweries in lockdown, so it's brewers only at the moment. But yeah, clearly once we get through the COVID thing, yeah, absolutely, like genuinely, and anyone will tell you, literally, you can knock on the door and someone will come down and show you. So
it's was opening as a tap room as well.
Not. We've got an area at the front that is designed to be a tap room, but we don't have a bar or anything in there. But what we have had is just a mobile bar in there, basically like a pretty rudimentary setup. And we open on Thursday and Friday, and we do a lot of takeaways. And we're in a bit of an industrial area, so a lot of the industrial workers drop in on Thursday and Friday and have a couple of beers and then get some takeaways. So we've got plans to build it out with a kitchen and a proper bar. But again, in the current environment, we're just waiting to see what happens. But our main hospitality venues are Queen Vic markets.
We're just starting to probably wrap up. So if anyone has any more questions, drop them in the chat.
Unfortunately, Sam Smalley is wrong, thinking the Samboy chicken was the shiz, but the salt and vinegar is the best. So we can.
Can you still get the chips? Is it a brand that still exists?
Good point. I'm not sure. I went on a Ruffles hunt a few years ago. Those like sneaky little crinkles. I love them, and the rough is the only one that did that. I feel like Samboy's around, but I don't think they are actually.
Yeah, I think like kettle chips and Pringles just killed everything, didn't they? Just came in.
It's been reintroduced. This is in 2008. I'm not sure. The second result is what happened to Samboy chips.
Fair enough.
I'll keep an eye out for them at the supermarket. Still not sure about the beer. Dave, did you have any more questions?
No, I did not.
Paul,
Actually, I did. I mean, like, what do we think's like the vision of Brick Lane for the next 5 years?
Oh, for us, it's just keep building out our portfolio of beers. We've got a pretty good base of core beers that go really well, and they're national, they're widely available, and that's been what the first couple of years is about, just getting everything in order so we can, pay the bills. We've got a beautiful brewery, but it's not cheap. We need to pay the bills like anyone else. So our core range of beers is doing all right. So now it's really the last sort of 3 or 4 months, it's pretty much giving the keys to the brewers just to say, get creative and go nuts. And you'll just see the amount of new beers coming out from us now is just rapidly accelerating. So this is the fun time. The first couple of years have been tough. It's not easy getting something off the ground, but now the brewers are coming into their own and they have a bit of fun.
how much have you learned about beer in the last 4 or 5 years?
Ridiculous amounts. So I absolutely love it. Like I live and breathe it. Anytime I can be in the brewery, I'm in the brewery. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, my ultimate aim is to work for John on the brew side. So that's where the fun is. And it's such a creative process. It really is kind of incredible. And the other side of it as well that I guess you don't see as much or doesn't get talked about as much as the barley farms and the maltsters and the hop farms, and if you look through the whole chain, there's so many exciting parts of beer. It's not. This is not. You go to a tap room and you just see the process within a brewery. There's so much more that goes on right from the farm gate all the way through. It's limitless what you can learn about beer and what goes into it. So yeah, I'm loving it.
Where do people find your beer? How do they find out about it if they're not sure?
So all the core range is through sort of the national. So you'll get that in Dan's and Liquorland and First Choice and VC. All the other beers like, your Revolvers and Supernovas, they're through all the indies basically. And all the good beer stores. So depending on where you live, you'll find them in all the, whether it's Carwins or, your Brewskis or those sorts of places. So, or we've got an online store as well, which, has been pretty handy in COVID. We basically didn't have an online presence before COVID, but it was an instigation of our sales team who, obviously overnight didn't have pubs or anything to call on. They said, why don't we do something about the online store? And it was left to them to do something. So they all came up and said, all right, we're going to do the online store. We're going to do same day delivery. So all our sales team have physically themselves been doing 7 days, same day delivery. So they wait 2 p.m, the orders come in, and then in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, they jump in their cars and they go out and they deliver all the orders from that day. So, some of the stuff that's come out of COVID and what people are prepared to do to support others around them is genuinely phenomenal. It's been pretty mind-blowing.
Final question from the chat. What's your favourite part of a brew day?
Favourite part of the brew day?
Yeah.
My favourite part, and the part I miss the most, not being in the brewery every day now, is in the morning, the smell of malt. The smell of malt coming out of the brew house is just, it's like a big cuddle. You walk into the brewery and this beautiful, warm malt sort of stuff just filling the air. To me, that is just amazing. Obviously, when you dry hop, you get all these pungent hop aromas, but there's something about that soft, comforting smell of malt first thing in the morning that's amazing.
It's a great evocative answer.
In the online shop there, Paul?
What's that?
How does anyone find the online shop to buy some beers?
Yeah, it's just our website, bricklanbrewing.com. So yeah, jump on there. They're all on there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us. I really enjoyed the chat. Dave will probably be back in a fortnight going by the COVID numbers. We'll be still inside. But I've been enjoying these chats. So if you're keep an eye on our social media for any these for future episodes. I've forgotten how to talk.
The revolver.
Yeah. Dave, where do people find you?
At Mel Dave on Twitter. Dave at Out of a Time. Send me an email, please. Do it. Luke, you.
At Out of a Time everywhere. Outofatime.com. Hypothetical Institute in your podcasting apps for conspiracy theory stuff.
What are we taking next?
This week was a topic that Cam came up with, which was really boring. So we just kind of ripped on Cam for an hour or so, which is some of my favourite episodes.
What did he say? What was his pitch?
The topic is it's called NASARA, which is a trade agreement act that never happened, but it's all around finance markets and there's Bitcoin involved.
And what's the diabolical element about it?
Well, apparently when it happened in America, everyone's debt was wiped. And so it's already happened secretly, allegedly, and everyone was out of debt and the economy's taxed differently, and it's all just, yeah. There is some aliens involved, but you're going to have to listen to the Hypothetical Institute to find out how. Look, don't get your hopes up. It's not as exciting.
There's your sizzle. Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said, we'll probably be back in a fortnight with a different guest, and this will be out on a podcast if people want to re-listen. But it's always good to have people in the chat, and thank you so much for joining us.
Sure. Ideas about maybe an interim show or interim something. So patrons, maybe stay tuned, but we'll talk about it off air.
For sure. Cheers, Paul. Cheers, Dave.
Luke, Dave, cheers. Cheers for the questions, everyone, as well.